group, Green Valley Media, created a beautiful book about it, which we are republishing if you're interested. Also, that year, 50 of us sat in on Senator Stafford's office for a weekend. Remember the Winooski 44?
Yeah.
Some of you might have been there. And begging him to cut military spending in Central America. The trial that followed, involving witnesses from around the country, gave us permission to present a necessity defense, explaining that we were taking a potentially illegal action in order to prevent more harm from occurring. We were acquitted. We sometimes do win our battles. Okay. Here we go again, 1985. Reagan is elected a second time and wins by a landslide. I mean, this was incredible. I traveled to Hiroshima on the 40th anniversary of the dropping of the bomb, and through the many talks with the Hibakusha, which are atomic survivors who come not only from the cities of Japan, but from among the Navajo people who had to mine uranium, and downwinders who lived in the vicinity of nuclear testing, not only in Nevada, but in the Marshall Islands. You wouldn't believe how many nuclear weapons were exploded over their islands. All of this made me aware that our country not only had released, but was obsessed with a deadly poison that was not only destroying our health, but that, like King Midas, was perverting our values. I committed myself to never give up hammering against the nuclear monster, whether it be so-called safe nuclear sites such as Vermont Yankee, or supporting those hammering on the nuclear submarines at Kings Bay, Georgia, as one of our Vermont residents was doing. Okay, 1986. Christchurch Presbyterian, here in Vermont, in Burlington, invites a Guatemalan family to live in their church for sanctuary. As this was illegal, the family could not leave the grounds due to fear of arrest. As a result, we sat with them, we learned from them about Mayan spirituality, and we helped the family grow a garden, a corn milpa on the lawn of the church. And a certain filmmaker named Dan Higgins did a beautiful documentary about that, which someone just showed me recently. This deepened my appreciation for the peoples of Central America. I got this beautiful Mayan gown at that time.
So rotate the cake.
Okay. All right, that's a good idea. And in 1988, from all this work with Mayan people and Catholics, I learned a lot about liberation theology, which has a philosophy of preferential option for the poor, from Miriam Ward and Marmite Hayes. How many people know them? Yay, okay. They've both passed on now, but they were very beautiful Catholic activists, and whose faith really supported them and helped to support mine. So that's the first decade. What significant event came up that I might have missed in the 80s that you, I guess the one has to go in there, that you have thought of? And did anything happen that I missed?
Sister City was started with Puerto Cabezas.
Okay,
in
yeah.
1984.
It was started, of course, I didn't get there until 98, so I didn't get to write about it till then.
This is a little selfish. It's 1981 I met you. I came to your family.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Not
beautiful.
non-political.
Uh-huh. And exactly what year was Danny born?
1981. Danny was
85.
He was 85.
Okay, we have to do one for Danny, born in 85. This is getting, who knows?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to the incredible decade of the 90s. What happened? Gorbachev declared perestroika. The Berlin Wall came down. Okay. 1991. Robin and Gary Davis stand on the Berlin Wall. Gary's life, his life dream of a world without borders, moves closer because the borders were falling everywhere. He invites people on both sides of the border to become world citizens, and our romance begins. Yes, there was a romance there. Okay, 1992. I go to our sister city in Puerto Cabezas on the Atlantic coast of Nicaragua and enjoy the beauty of traveling with a delegation to a town where we sit around and try to figure out basic things like how taxes are collected and whether the indigenous people or the Sandinistas control the land. It was not your typical vacation delegation, but it was very interesting. And we are grateful to Dan Higgins and Jane Kramer for maintaining our sister relationship with Puerto Cabezas over the decades. And there was Howard Jansky was here too, from Port, who helped us understand what Puerto Cabezas was like. Okay, wow, 1995, this was a real doozer. I took and filmed the Wilf Peace Train to Beijing, China, across the Great Gobi Desert, ending up at the largest gathering of women in world history at the UN Fourth World Conference on Women. There I became aware of the multitude of ways that women's selfhood and creativity is restricted through misogyny and stupid laws and conventions, and I vowed to support women's rights forever.
Rotate.
Whoa.
From the left and the right.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, I skipped something. My beautiful mother dies, 1993. She was a writer of novels and children's books, and I'll always remember when she invited me to illustrate her children's book, Billy Hunts the Unicorn, which is set in Wing Farm, Rochester. And so at the age of 21, with Hastings House, I worked with an editor and with my mother. And what was so moving about that, remembering your relationships with mothers, that it was a project, not a mother and daughter, but we were two creative people together. I sort of moved out of a certain category of just being a daughter. I was now a creative person with her. So that was beautiful. Then in 95 was the Peace Train and the Women's Conference in 96. 1996. My father died of pneumonia and dementia at Wing Farm. His passion for the third world, and especially for the independence of the peoples and countries of Africa, has been with me all my life as I continue to nurture his baby, the global newsletter Toward Freedom. Yeah.
You're here, Corbin.
Hey, hey. Hi, hi. Okay. So, what happened to you in the 1990s that was wonderful and significant to you? Want to put a candle in?
Yeah, I got to edit on Peace Train. I
Yeah.
got to sit in the basement with Robin for days on end with our babushkas on. And I learned so much about women in the world.
Yeah. She was the editor of the hour-long film on Peace Train to Beijing, which was the Peace Train and also
It was very
the experience.
educational.
Yeah, in Beijing. Okay. Anything else?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Greg.
You're adding candles?
Huh?
A little late in the game, but
No, it's never late.
I didn't get to mention.
yeah, I was somewhat involved in some of those earlier events.
You
So
don't have to light. We'll light them later.
But how about Christina Brewster?
I would say the birth of our son Jesse is a little bit more important than that. Yeah, there were a lot of things that happened, and I enjoyed the relationship with your dad and editing toward freedom through those years.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Anyone else?
Yes,
Oh, look.
yeah.
So the year 2000. Oh my gosh, another decade. What's that?
I'm sorry. I took part in one of the Waterman takeovers and the community service.
Oh, I'm glad you're here, Jane. But I can't hear you unless you speak up louder. Okay, the year 2000, the Y2K bug. Remember? We all thought the world was going to collapse because the computers were not going to spin over to the 2000, and so louder. Okay, so what Jesse and I did was we took off for Galapagos Island right at that time, which means flying on an airplane to Ecuador. We stayed there, we visited up close and friendly with snakes and reptiles, and we made it back safely. And as you know, we all survived the Y2K. But we got excited about it for a while. Okay. People who arrive late, we go somewhere else.
She's here.
She's, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, so that was, but until they get settled, I feel not.
Okay, well, I'll go for the 90s then.
Yeah.
They'll backtrack because I met you in the 90s since
Now project to all these people.
you had this relationship with my dad, Gary.
Uh-huh.
So one day I come down to 300 Maple Street for the first time. I have no idea when it was, but it was in the 90s, and I think Jesse was 15 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I met this wonderful family, step family.
And we met
And
you.
and we did a lot of things together and had a lot of nice suppers with political discussions, of course, about the state of the world and what we should do about it.
Yeah, and you now have a daughter, an adopted daughter from Haiti.
They'll come out.
Okay, you'll bring it up
coming
later.
For her, 'cause-
Right. Okay. So so that was 2000. Then the year 2001. Okay. There were some things that happened that weren't the one that we all think about, and that was that I attended in August and September of 2001 the UN Conference Against Racism in Durban, South Africa. Our plane returned to Kennedy Airport on September 11th at 8 a.m. as the Twin Towers were coming down. I realized right away that the extraordinary sharing and education that took place at the Racism Conference in South Africa, meeting with people of color from everywhere, that basically the energy and inspiration from that event was crushed by the fall of the Twin Towers. And with the rage of the George Bush administration for revenge, I would call it revenge. I don't know, people might have other insights in how to describe it. Revenge and world hegemony. Militarism and racism grew to a new high. Okay, moving on to 2005. I attend with Marmit and Miriam the School of Americas, called what we called the School of the Assassins. Did any of you go there? This was really an incredible experience. That people came from around the country to Fort Benning, and we would have a procession in front of it because the doors were, of course, closed to us. This was Ray Bourgeois who who led it, and we would each carry a cross, even if we weren't Catholics, and we would remember the people who had been killed, probably by the Gatling guns that used to leave town right on Maple Street. And so here is one, Janet, let us remember now, Janet del Carmen Aguirre Zelaya. She was 3 years old. She was killed in September 22nd of 86. So we were holding her in our memory as we walked around. And I took part in that several times.
And then you say presente.
Yeah,
the
in
name.
Presente, we would say Presente. And then 2006.
Robin, you have to keep on putting the candles.
Ah,
You're
the
forgetting the
candles.
candles. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
You can
right.
put a couple there.
A couple, okay.
Yeah, you
To
need
catch up.
Catch up, yeah.
Okay, 2006. It is revealed that the military training center at Fort Benning, Georgia, is teaching torture to soldiers from Latin American countries. Some 30 of us, protesters, Witness for Peace, and so on, cross the fence at Fort Benning, are arrested, and we all serve 3 months or more in federal prison. Not the maximum prison at Danbury, but the camp. There's a big difference. I recommend the experience to everyone. It's very enlightening. I was hoping people would follow me, but no one did. 2007.
May I say something there?
Please.
Chris and I, we went to the trial that Robin was to be sentenced. And Robin trying to talk to the judge that I want to, as a citizen, I have the right to go and arrest those people who have created these killings, and so on. But the judge didn't buy. He said, okay, you're going to pay $500, and the sentence will be later. And in addition, Robin said, and my brother came from Vermont to be here, and the judge said, brother, can you get up? So the whole court got up and everybody started laughing. All the attendants.
Wow, I had forgotten that detail. Yeah.
Put a candle in.
The candle.
Okay. Okay. And let's see, what year are we in now?
2007.
Oh, we're way into 2000. I was going to say, and then Daniela came to live in our house here, but that was a decade before. And yeah, okay, but I just wanted to make note of that. For 3 years. Yeah, and here she is. I traveled with Jubilee 2000 to Nairobi, Kenya to take part in the World Social Forum. The social forums are these gathering together of nonprofits and activist groups and revolutionary groups from around the world, very exciting events. But the Jubilee 2000 is concerned especially about debt, poverty, and debt relief. Debt on the third world is illegal. It is odious. That's a beautiful word. Odious debt. And it's illegitimate. On top of being in Africa at that time, I learned about the devastation of the AIDS epidemic and the evangelical effects to cure it, which is ABC. Abstain, be faithful, and finally condoms. And you know, that might have actually succeeded a bit in cutting down the plague that was really devastating Africa at that time. Okay, moving on. 2009.
Candle.
Quadricentennial.
Candle, put a candle.
2009.
Robin, we forgot 1992 Rio de Janeiro, the world summit in Rio. Weren't you? Were you there?
I was not there.
Oh, you were not there.
Yeah,
Okay.
our actually Pamela Polson was our was working for Toward Freedom then, and she went, and your brother went.
Well, my whole family, we only
Yeah.
met at international environmental events. So my mom, my dad,
Really?
my two brothers, and I, we were all in Rio
Wow.
for 1992.
All right, we're learning things here. Quadricentennial of Samuel de Champlain.
You're supposed to put this in.
Okay.
This was for the
There you go, there you go.
right.
All right.
For the
For
previous one.
Nairobi.
2009. So we learned a lot about Samuel de Champlain. Quadricentennial means that he was here in 1609. He was an explorer. He saw many storms. He saw many waterfalls, but he chose to give his name to our quiet lake. The whole town of Burlington did a deep dive in history, thanks to Doreen and Dorothy and the Abnaki people and probably City Hall, right? Would you want to say anything about that, Doreen? No, she doesn't. Okay, that was
So
just
just-
one of many.
About Samuel de Champlain, something you may not know about him is that actually he is the only historical figure that I think francophones and anglophones love alike in Quebec. I had no idea that anglophones liked him, respected him, and he was a part of your history. I thought he was only part of French Canadian history because we have he comes from France. And I discovered one day, to my great surprise, that he was actually loved and respected by anglophones too. So he's the only one that we agree upon, Samuel de Champlain. He was a hero to both the French and the English.
I wish though that there was some kind of psychotherapist around for him to talk to, because he came to this area, to Lake Champlain, with one tribe. They fought the other tribe, they won, and then they tortured. He witnessed them torturing the other tribe. I mean, what does that do to you? I don't think he's written a report, unfortunately.
What he did do is he wrote wonderful diaries and made absolutely beautiful maps. And to me, why I was so fond of him was as an artist, basically, and as a curious person. And I didn't live in Burlington, but I spent a lot of time for the Vermont movie trying to do a thing on Champlain. And also, I'm a kayaker, and he was a great boater. And he had this spirit called Orenda, which is, I can get in and go down the rapids at Lachine in Montreal and not know how to swim. And he did that. I mean, that was his test. The Native Americans made him go down those rapids. And so as a boater and someone who likes maps and diaries, he was my man. And he went all the way out to the Great Lakes. He went out to Lake Huron. He traveled the rivers, the waterways.
Wow, yeah. Okay, then I skip a few years because I didn't want to
You can't
overwhelm you.
skip 2010
Okay, why not?
because of what happened in Haiti.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There was the biggest earthquake in the Western Hemisphere in 2010. And I mean, I didn't get to go down there, but you have a relationship to that earthquake. And what is your
Well,
relationship?
first of all, it happened on my birthday, and I was waiting for my daughter, who was in an orphanage in Port-au-Prince, in Croix-des-Bouquets, and in Pétionville, sorry. And we didn't know whether she was alive or not for a couple of days, and that was horrendous. And eventually, she got put on a plane with all the kids from the orphanages that were already accepted into Canada. And she got in on the 27th of January 2010. You can put a candle for Emma.
Okay, for Emma. And where is she now?
She's in Montreal preparing for exams.
For what age?
She's 17. Well,
Yeah.
she's going to be 18 in
When I knew her a little bit, she was really a beautiful artist. So I don't know.
she is still a very beautiful artist.
Great. Okay, so that's 2010. Now, skipping to 2015. Oh, that's a big one. I go to the 100th anniversary of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Please remember that it got started in 1915, trying to stop World War I. Did it succeed? Not really. Then it tried to stop World War II. Did it succeed? No. But my grandmother, who was very involved in this, according to her daughter, died in the middle of 2044. Excuse me. 1944, out of sadness at all of the work they had done to try to stop war, and they had not succeeded. So one for my grandmother. And I wanted to bring her statue down, which is up there. I made a little play about her with Charlotte, because it happens that my grandmother, Lola Maverick Lloyd, went to Smith College when Charlotte's grandmother went to Smith College. And they didn't really, we don't know that they knew each other, but
Same class.
yeah, it was the same
Same
class.
class.
And her grandmother went to the Middle East, so there was kind of a connection between them. Do you want to say anything more about your mother? Oh, wow, she's bringing her. She's here with us now.
Here now.
You look just like her.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
They both graduated, but they went on completely separate paths because her grandmother became a pacifist, and my grandmother sort of bought in. She taught at the American College for Girls in Turkey, and she was a missionary educator, and very pro-American and so on. But we were able to, in our skit, we were ultimately able to loop them back together around World War I. And my grandmother in World War II lost her son, my father, and she lost another son in World War I. So anyway, we were able to bring together a sort of an anti-war theme in our skit.
Yeah, and it is on my website, grandmothers, talking with our grandmothers.
I'll add something.
Yeah.
Do you remember we were in Rhode Island in the little shack, and we were just rummaging in the back for looking to see what's there, and we found this bust,
Yes.
the Lola Maverick, and Robin was so lit up when this appeared behind a bunch of cluttered things. Someone had stuffed it away who knows how long ago, and Robin was so happy to find it, and I could tell by the way she held it she was going to cherish it. And I think that was the beginning of your inspiration to go and do the tour that you did. It kind of all formed around finding this bust. You had all the material
Yeah.
building up, but it came together.
Yeah, and it's 99% sure that it is a bust of my grandmother, but there's no signature on it, but we assume it is. All right. And so this is for 2015. Wow, a huge thing happened after the Wilf event in April. Our son decided to get married, and he had a most beautiful wedding in New Orleans, and we celebrated with a marching band throughout the streets of New Orleans. That was two amazing things in 2015.
Put in a
Okay,
candle.
huh?
A candle.
Another candle. Okay,
Jesse's
you wanna-
wedding.
The wedding. Okay. I don't know how we're going to
Yeah, there's more.
We're going to
Around it.
light it when the time comes. Okay, we're getting towards the end now. 2016. Okay, at the Vermont Wilf Gathering, which we have been holding for every summer since 2008. and zero, there was a very intense discussion on Saturday night. We are facing fascism and it is terrifying. So we had this very intense discussion about fascism way back, that's 8 years ago. And so we were a little premature, perhaps, but I think we were right to worry about it. Okay, here's against fascism. Then in 2017, I started reading books about aging. Yeah, why not? One was Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. His argument is that medical care should focus on well-being rather than just survival at all cost. I support the Death with Dignity Act, which passed in Vermont in 2013. Okay. And then 2020, continuing, studying Jung, Carl Gustav Jung with Sue Merton she's a Jungian teacher over in Waterbury, How to Age Consciously. Jung argues, it's time to clean out. That's what you were doing. Time to sort things out. Don't fear wasting time. It can be a positive time. Live more in the moment. Make time to be a crone. Actually, I was croned like 10 years earlier.
That.
Try to be a wise woman. Okay, that was 2020.
Put that candle in.
Yes, okay, be a crone. 2022, continuing the same motif. How to pack for the next world without knowing what to expect. I watch awesome bird migrations on television. I think of making a space for those who come next. Okay. And finally, this year.
22 bills passed.
Who?
2022 bills, your brothers.
No, well, that's what I'm getting to. But I'm doing it. Okay. Yeah. So, my older brother Bill died, who had been bedridden for a year, dies in New York City right at the end of 2022. And then, surprisingly and without warning, my younger brother Chris sickens and dies on February 18th. Chris was the father of Daniel and the spouse of Vasi. So that's it. We've gotten through it all. I want to have just a moment of silence in memory of all of the wonderful people in our lives, and brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, to remember them. And then we'll light the candles.
Right.
And
Put that
we
last
have-
one in.
Robin, excuse me, if I could add one thing, if you don't mind. Tomorrow, Trump is being indicted.
Yeah.
And in 2010, Robin and a few of us ran a campaign to prosecute
Oh, yeah.
Bush
I should have gotten that
for
in there.
taking us into the war illegally in Iraq. So it's been a long time, but we will eventually start holding these leaders accountable for their crimes.
I hope so.
Might need a fire permit for this.
Start the setter.
Okay, now
Yes, that is,
everyone has to enter into meditation as you watch this experience, because who knows? Anyone else? Anyone else wants to get involved? Well, I wonder. I think one might be enough. We might as well make it this one since This is going through such a torment of. Oops. Uh-oh.
It's okay, we'll get it after.
Yeah. Wow, they're all just about all lit.
Getting there.
Oops, there
It's all
I
right.
put some ashes.
We'll get the knife and get it cleaned up.
There's only one missing there.
Great.
Okay,
Come on.
Daddy, we're going to have to get a big huff and a puff here.
Wow, look
Okay.
You, everyone,
All right.
It's you too. It's you too.
1, 2, 3, go!
all right, very good.
Wow.
So,
Bon souffle.
I think maybe Jen. Oh, I have to put my party. Okay, I'm getting prepared for 20.
And for your migration?
2080.
So what is that for?
It's just celebrating the next year.
Okay.
Huh?
Flamingo.
This is what was on sale at the at the magic store, or whatever it's called. Yeah.
I thought it was a message for the next election cycle in the U.S.
Flamingos? I don't know. Actually, we have flamingos on our website of the Vermont Peace Anti-War Coalition. My friend in White River Junction, he likes flamingos, so he put there. You can see more flamingos if you want.
So what you didn't mention was the time when I think you and other women got kicked out of the Peace and Justice Center because you weren't politically correct enough, and you were talking about the erasure of women, which is this amazing return of misogyny. How do you say misogyny?
Misogyny.
Misogynistic stereotypes,
Yeah.
war against women, war
Yeah.
against lesbians, all that happening
Yeah.
from the left,
Mhm.
which like blows my mind because I've always been on the left.
So,
So now we have to fight on both sides.
Yeah, it's true.
so you also didn't talk about your time in Danbury,
Well,
in the shoe.
I said I was there and I wanted other.
I thought you were talking about the other prison.
It wasn't that bad, and I wanted other people to actually
Okay.
risk going to jail.
I thought there was 2 different prisons, one in Georgia and then the other one in Danbury. No.
No, Georgia is where the protest
Okay.
took place.
Yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah, okay. So did everyone get welcomed and everyone's here?
Everyone's welcome.
Okay, well, let's start cutting because we
Okay.
need to move to the next stage and
Hello.
ice cream. Oh, beautiful. Wow. So nice.
I don't know.